What's up guys, welcome back to the Run with Jay channel. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about road running versus trail running. So road running, is pretty self-explanatory. It's been around forever. It's what most people start out doing. Trail running has been around as well, but it's picked up steam lately with the ultra runners and the ultra races, running 100, 200 miles even through deserts, wilderness, mountains, you name it. It's picked up a lot, picked up steam a lot, and, kind of fits in with triathlon as well. People are pushing the limits of human capability, so people are running farther, people are running longer, so, trail running has really picked up steam as well. So in this video, we're going to go through both road running and trail running and talk about the pros and cons of both. So if you guys are new to this channel, welcome. Please hit that like and subscribe button as well as the bell for notifications, and let's get started. So let's start out with road running since it's the most popular one. What are the pros of road running? So number one is the ease and accessibility of running on the roads. You basically have to put on your shoes and then you'll be out at the door and you'll be on the roads right away. So it's very easy. There's plenty of roads everywhere, and it's just so easy to just get out of your house and start running. There's no you have to drive anywhere or go someplace to run. You can pretty much run everywhere. So that's the great part of running on the roads. And the second pro of running on the roads is easier terrain. Most of the time it's going to be asphalt and concrete. When you're running, you're not going to have any obstacles. You're just going to go straight, and maybe some turns here and there, but you're not going to have to dodge any rocks or things like that. If you're running in a park even, it's just going to be straight, and you're pretty much going in one motion, so the terrain is a lot easier, and you're not going to get lost or anything running in the roads. Another pro of running on the roads is you're able to build endurance and work on speed compared to running in trails or anywhere else, because the road is much more flat when you're running, and also you're able to go much faster and you don't have to worry about obstacles or slowing down. So when you're running on the roads, this is where most people can work on intervals training, tempo runs, things like that. So running on the roads gives you the advantage of being able to train on your speed and to run fast. So another pro of running on the roads is building leg strength and endurance. You can run marathons on the road, and you can work on your leg strength by climbing hills on the road. It's a lot easier than doing that in the trails. You can go on for hours and hours in the roads. And then you can work on endurance. It's just so much more simpler doing that compared to running on the trails. Another pro of running on the roads is you're able to run with a lot of people or groups. I know a lot of running clubs, they have certain days of the week where they meet to run together in the mornings, or even some clubs meet on the weekends or in a specific location, and most of the time it's road running because it's just so much more accessible and it's easier for everyone, and you kind of won't get lost, and it's just a lot easier to get to than having to go on the trails to meet up, and it gets more complicated and things like that. So it's a lot of group running available for on the roads. So if you're interested in running with people or groups, you'll most likely see a lot of them running on the roads instead of trails. And the last pro of running on the roads is your accessibility to facilities like bathrooms and things like that, or water if you need them. So if you ever needed to use a bathroom while you're running, you can always stop in a shop or a store and do that, compared to running on the trails where there is really no bathrooms if you're going deep in the woods. So the ease of the facilities running on the roads is a lot better if you tend to go to the bathroom often, or you forgot to go and somehow you're in the middle of the run, you need to go. And so it's a lot easier when you're doing it on the roads. You can kind of just stop and find the nearest bathroom, but on the trails you're gonna have to go in the woods. That's your only option. So that's another pro of running on the roads. So what are some cons of road running? Number one, it's a high impact on your legs and joints, since you're running on concrete and asphalt. It's very hard surface, so your body's going to take all that impact the whole time, and that'll lead to my second con, which is overuse injuries. is very common when running on the roads, because your legs are doing the repetitive motion for hours, over and over again. So your muscles are being worked and overworked, so you could lead to overuse injuries like tendonitis, your IT band, pain, muscle soreness, calf soreness, any of that stuff where your muscles are just overworked, and that could lead to overuse injuries. So that's another con with running on the roads. And also another con is running on the roads is a lot of the roads are kind of like slanted, where the sides, the middle part is highest and the slides kind of go down because for water purposes. So when it rains, the water can kind of filter into the gutters. So if you're running on the sides of the road, your foot's kind of not balanced, so that could lead to problems with pronation and or injuries, even because your one foot is higher than the other. Obviously you can't run in the middle of the road most of the time because cars drive there, so you're forced to kind of run on the side of the roads where it's slanted. So that's another con with running on the roads, is uneven surfaces if you're running on like main streets. Another con for running on the roads for most people is it could get boring after a while. So if you run solo all the time and you're running for hours, or like 10 plus miles, after a while you're seeing the same things over and over again if you run the same route, and it could get boring even with music sometimes, or when you're listening to it while running. After a while it could get monotonous because the scenery doesn't change. You see the same homes, you see the same house, or same areas all the time if you're running your same route. So it's a good idea to change up your routes every now and then, but that's another con of running on the roads, is it could get monotonous and boring after a while. And lastly, a con for running on the roads is dealing with traffic and pedestrians. So especially in our time now when we're dealing with a pandemic, you have to stay 6 feet away. It'll be kind of difficult if you're running on the sidewalk and there's already so many people, having to zigzag between people here and there. So it's very difficult. You have to worry about traffic, or when you're doing a nice run and then you have to stop at a red light and the light takes forever, kind of ruins your mojo and ruins your momentum that you had going. So all of those breaks and things like that could be a pain when you're running on the roads. So next we'll talk about trail running. So trail running has become very popular lately. People are more into the whole nature thing now. So a lot of people are running in the woods, and ultra runners are very popular, and ultra races are very big now. So people run like 100, 200 miles even races, and race through deserts, mountains, pretty much anything you name it. So trail running has really picked up steam lately. So there's a lot of pros and cons with trail running as well. So we'll start out with the first pro of trail running, is because softer surfaces, which is great on your legs and your joints. So compared to asphalt and concrete, when you're running in the trails, you're running on like dirt, leaves, like moss, things like that, where it's not really super hard. It's still surface, but you can definitely feel the difference. Even when you run on grass, it's a lot softer on your legs. It's less impact. So your legs will thank you for that. Another pro for running in the trails, I feel like, is you're more focused on it's more stimulating, and I feel like it's more relaxing, honestly, because when you're running on the trails, you're gonna have to watch out for obstacles or in your way. So you're always gonna have to be focused on the run. You can't just like zoom out for hours, because there's nothing to worry about. The route, the road. So on the trails it's totally different. You got to make sure you're not stepping on anything, and that you're always looking at where you're going. So you're more focused, and it's more stimulating, I feel like, running on the roads. And also, in a kind of weird way, it's also relaxing. You're by yourself and there's nobody else with you, and you're just you and the nature basically. So for some people, they run in the trails because it just relaxes them, and they get away from the whole hustle and bustle of the city life. The next pro for running in the trails is you get a full body workout basically compared to running on the roads. When you're running on the roads, you're using basically your leg muscles for the most part, and the rest of your body doesn't really get a workout. When you're running on trails, you're going left and right, up and down, jumping up or ducking things. So you're like all over the place, and it's a whole body workout. You're working out your core, you're working out your muscle groups in your legs. That's that you don't do with running. After a while you even feel it in your back, so when you finish a long run or long trail run, sometimes you'll feel sore throughout your whole body, and that's because your whole body had to go through training basically through the run, and you basically get a full body workout when running in the trails, and this is great. Another pro of running in the trails is good for recoveries and for your legs. So when you're running in the trails, for the most time your paces slow down a lot, so you can't go like super mile pace in the trails unless you want to like fall all over the place. I have seen people run super fast in the trails if they're really experienced or good at it, but for the most part your paces will be a lot slower than they are in the road, and that's because you have to duck obstacles, and there's so many things you have to watch out for when you're running in the trails, which is good for recovery runs. So a lot of people I know use trail running days just to recover their legs, because your paces go down a lot, and also the surface is much softer, so it's a nice recovery for your legs. Another pro of running in the trails is no traffic and very little human contact. So compared to the roads where there's cars and people everywhere, in the trails it's basically just you and nature, and occasionally you'll get some people walking or hiking in the woods that you'll run into, but for the most part those people are really cool, and they'll kind of let you pass by if you're a runner, and everybody really says hi. So if you're into like just having peace and be by yourself, the trail running is great because it lets you do that, and you kind of just focus on running, and and relax your mind, and you don't have to worry about anything else, and there's very few distractions. And lastly, my last positive thing of running in the trail is the fresh air that you get. So some people might not notice the difference with air quality, but if you go from a city to like a forest or something, you can definitely take in the smell, and it's just so nice once in a while to get out of that city life, or the roads where you got carbon monoxide from cars and things like that, and you just get the air quality is just so much nicer in trails and woods compared to the roads. So it's really refreshing. It's kind of like for me it's like a refresh for my mind when I go to the trails and come out, and my head, I feel like I think clearer and everything just works better. It's just so refreshing, and I know get the runner's high, so I feel like you get double that when you're doing a trail run. So next we're going to talk about the cons of running in the trails. So the number one con for running in the trails is you could get lost. So if you're not familiar with trail running or even hiking in general, if you go to a trail that's pretty substantial size, and the trails for instance are not marked, you could get lost, and that could be a problem. So if you're new to trail running, I would suggest bringing a map or a backpack with supplies like water in case you get lost and you need water. And I would recommend just checking out the trail online to make sure you kind of know the general the size or the direction you should be going. It's because it's sometimes you don't know what to expect. If you're going to explore a new trail for the first time, you want to have a good idea of where you should be going, how long the distance is of the trail, and what is in there. So you should do some research beforehand if you're running on a new trail. So the possibility of getting lost is one of my cons for trail running. The next con for trail running is obviously there's no facilities or bathrooms or even water sometimes. So that could be a pain for people that usually like to go often, or if you're caught up in the middle of a run and you have nowhere to go, you're gonna have to go in the woods, unfortunately. Unless of a facility or a porta potty that's somewhere by the trails, or if you're at a national park where they do have restrooms, that is good. But for the most part, if you're running in a trail or going deep into some of the woods or mountains, there most likely isn't going to be facilities for you, so you're going to have to figure out a way to get by that. And I would just bring a backpack for water as well, and some like snacks or supplies in case you're going in for the long haul. So be prepared for that. If you're exploring a new trail that you're not familiar with, that there might not be any bathrooms or facilities, so you should carry water or something in advance to prepare for that. So the next con for running in the trails is dealing with one-time injuries. So compared to overuse injuries with the roads, one-time injuries are things like twisting an ankle running on a route, or tripping and hitting somewhere on your body, or like me where I tripped on a route and tumbled into a shallow lake, which wasn't fun. And I had some cuts on my arm and my shoulders from the sharp branches. So just be aware that you could get hurt running in the trails, and people do fall all the time. I still see it to this day with people who are experienced runners. You could be the fastest guy on the road, but you come to the trails, it kind of really humbles you, because you're kind of have to cut down your speed and kind of work with what nature gives you. So you're bound to trip and fall if you miss like a root sticking out. So that's part of the game with running in the trails, so be prepared for that. And that's another con for running in the trails. And next, along with that, next con is obstacles that you're gonna have to deal with. So besides the root and rocks, which are obvious with trail running, you're gonna have to deal with things sometimes like bugs, which some people hate. I've swallowed so many bugs running in the trails, which it's fine, they're little flies, and just but you're gonna come in contact with bugs. Could be like something small like a fly, or even a spider, or anything like that. So if you're squeamish of things like that, that'll be something you have to take into consideration if you go into nature. Also, you'll come across even wildlife. For instance, I ran across a snake with a couple of friends doing a trail run, and the thing was literally right out in the trail. So we had to wait for it to cross and go into the woods before we passed. So look out for that. And there's usually signs outside of trails or parks that tells you what kind of wildlife is in there, so you're prepared for it. But just be on the lookout to see where you're stepping. Make sure you're not stepping in a hole or in an animal or a snake or things like that. So obstacles are going to be plenty in trails, so you want to make sure you're safe and that you're not getting hurt. The next con for running in the trails is you're going to need a pair of trail shoes. So you can't just wear your running or road sneakers into the trail, because you're going to need some grip or lugs underneath the shoe to make sure you have traction and that you don't slip and fall anywhere. And if you decide to take a road shoe to it, which I've done my first couple times running, your shoe's going to get dirty, it's going to get destroyed, and if it has, it's expensive, the foam can get ruined as well. So I highly recommend you get a pair of trail shoes if you want to start doing trail running, because they're made differently and they're made for high impact and for you to for traction, so you don't slip or anything like that. Where road shoes is made for speed, so they're not going to have any of those rubber lugs on the bottom of the shoes. So there is a difference. And trail shoes, you can wear them road or not off-road, but they're made for off-road. So if you run with heavy lugs on your shoes and the road, for after a while your legs you might develop some injuries with overuse, and it'll be painful as well. So try to keep your trail shoes on the trail as much as possible, but they are okay on the roads for a little bit as well. So the last con for running on the trails is just it's a lot harder to get to the trail than to go out to run on the roads. For most people, they're not fortunate enough to have a nice trail in their backyard or within walking distance. You're gonna have to drive or take the public transportation to get to a trail to run. So it's you're gonna have to factor in the extra time it's gonna take to get to the trail. So that's gonna increase your total workout time, or just time that you're gonna spend running. So you have to take that into account. So it's not readily accessible running on trails. You're gonna have to get there in order to run. So that's going to be obstacle or pain for some people when they're comfortable just getting out of the door and start running. But trail running, for the most part, if you want to run a decent trail, you're going to have to drive or get to it and before you start running. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope this video was informative about giving you an idea of how trail running is compared to road running. If you've never ran on the trails before, I highly recommend it. It's a great experience. It's very different from running on the roads. With trail running, you can see great views sometimes. If you could use it as a way to explore some of the parts of the places you have never been to. A lot of trail running involves going up mountains and things like that. So when you hit the peak, you're able to see gorgeous views, and everything is just totally different than running on the roads. And it's just very refreshing, and I highly recommend it to people who've never tried it before. So if you guys have any other comments, feedback, or questions, please feel free to leave them down below. I hope all of your training is going very well, and if and you guys are staying safe out there, and I'll see you guys on the next run.